Is it better to be black or white, and why?
I think that it's important to confront the fact that white privilege exists, and that while clearly like no race should be inherently better, that there really are like structural and institutionalized privileges that white people have that aren't conferred to people of color that we need to address in this country.
It is difficult being black because it's a maternal society. There are no dads. It's just grandmother raising child. And I think what you need that family unit. You need a whole group of people working.
In my personal experience, I've found that being white actually has a lot more advantages, especially on like the socio-political scale, just on like the large scale. But granted, I do love being brown because people pay like thousands of dollars to get this kind of tan, and I get it for free. So there's that.
It's better to be white because I don't know about being black. Changing now would be a little inconvenient.
It all depends on what situation you are in, you know? Like, just for example, sake of conversation, you know, if you are a black male and you happen to be pulled over by the cops and you have a small amount of marijuana in your pocket, possession, however you want to look at it, you know, that black male may go to jail where it is a tickable offense, whereas a white male in the same situation, you know, they might be let off with a warning or that ticket, you know. So it's just the same thing, but at the same time, you know, if you find yourself in a dark alley and you are a black male, you know, you may be able to walk with a little bit of confidence knowing that others are probably more afraid of you than you are afraid of the people around you, you know.
Why do you think some people dislike and sometimes even hate black people? Where does that feeling come from?
I guess it's because of a lot of the advertise and things that you see in TV, that most people that the crimes is mostly by blacks, so that gives an image even when you're very little, and that's the image that you have, that people do like that they are criminal, they are mostly blacks.
Colonialism, 100%. I think those roots come from like the colonial experience that started, they're deep rooted. That started in like the Caribbean, like not necessarily even the Americans. I would root it back into British colonial times because like that's where poverty came from, in my opinion. This is all in my opinion. I found that like the colonial experience like extracted resources such as people, but like even natural resources from different parts of the world, leaving land unarable and moving people and cultures across the world, and that in turn like started racial profiling, started this sort of like deep-seated racial hatred, and that's in my opinion.
I think that it's perpetrated by white people, which is a huge problem. I think.
But why do they have that sentiment? Where does that come from?
I think the fact that there's a possibility to create an advantage, so, you know, systemic and institutionalized racism are continually perpetrated to make sure that people keep that advantage, which is really terrible.
Whether there's some biological imperative that makes human beings wary or distrustful of others of the species that look differently than they do, I don't know. It's very clear that there's a cultural upbringing and the way you raise children, etc., that causes that. You have to teach kids to think that way, but where that comes from, I couldn't tell you.
You know, I don't think it really matters where it comes from. I think all that matters is that you just need to live your life from your center and from your heart, and if you do that, then it won't really matter whether you're black or white, or whether you're oppressed or have privilege or whatever.
It's kind of propaganda in my mind, you know. We're still dealing with old school mentalities in a lot of ways, you know, and even though we talk a lot of progress and progression, you know, there's always, you learn from the people ahead of you, you know, and those, even though it's not said publicly, you know, you're still taught hate in many ways, you know. It's going to be a while before there's any kind of real reform, so that hate's going to be around for a while.
Do you feel any tension or awkwardness when you're around black people?
Actually, I do sometimes. I was just in Bahamian, and all the people there are mostly black, and I was one of the white ones, so yeah, I do.
Why do you feel that way?
I don't know. I'm from Finland, so for me it's quite uncommon to have so many black people around, but it's stupid, but that's true.
Not personally. It's all about kind of personal interactions. I have friends of all races and colors and ethnicities, so it's not an immediate uncomfortableness, it's how they act after I meet them.
There is a certain feeling, noticeable feeling about African Americans.
Is it a negative feeling?
No, it's just an awareness. And I think, at least for myself, no guilt, no. I mean, if there is guilt, yes, because the whole slavery issue, and that's how I perceive a lot of it. But I can't even remember what we were talking about. What were we talking about?
I don't even see color. I was a nurse for 40 years. It didn't matter what you were, white, black, Latino, it doesn't matter.
Probably depends on the setting, right? If I'm meeting them with friends, hanging out, no. If I were in a situation where there were maybe a tense surrounding as part of that dynamic, then maybe.
No. Not really, no.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because they're different parts of your mind, and so I think there is a social program for sure about it, but it doesn't really matter what's in my mind because I don't live my life from my mind.
That's a funny question. What do you mean?
Your skin, is it better to be white or black?
Well, black wants to be white and white wants to look brown or tan. So whatever you are not, you want to be look like that.
So white people want to be black.
If they're white, they want to be black. If they're black, they want to be white, because they say that pastures are greener on the other side. Same goes maybe with the skin color. Whatever you don't have, you wish you have.